Welcome to today's explainer. So today we're looking at something I find absolutely fascinating. It's this incredibly profound piece of visual art called the Mirror of Truth. It tackles one of the oldest, most universal struggles in human history. We're talking about a deep conceptual dive into the inner human struggle. It's one of those topics that completely crosses cultures and centuries, but somehow it's still insanely relevant to our everyday lives. We're going to decode the symbolism behind a really striking image that actually maps out the terrain of the human soul. I'm super excited to walk you through this because this isn't just some beautifully designed cover art. It's literally a blueprint for self-reflection. So get comfortable, focus in on the screen, and let's begin this journey inward. But before we dive into the artwork itself, I want you to consider something. What is the hardest battle you will ever fight? Like, when we hear the word battle, our minds instantly jump to external stuff, right? Clashing armies, political debates, or, even just dealing with difficult people at work. But the concept we're unpacking today flips that entirely on its head. It suggests that the absolute greatest, most exhausting, and most consequential war you'll ever wage isn't against anything on the outside. It's entirely internal, deeply, deeply personal. It is the battle for control over your own desires, your own ego, and your own character. And the material we're examining today actually maps out what that internal battlefield looks like. Okay, take a look at the bold, golden text arching right across the top there. Now, for those of us who don't read Urdu, these beautifully rendered letters read, Isla and Nafs ka aina e haq. And in English, that translates to the mirror of truth for the reformation of the self. Really think about that phrasing for a second, a mirror of truth. I mean, a mirror doesn't flatter you, right? It doesn't lie. It just reflects exactly what's there, flaws and the whole shebang. So the creator of this image is telling us right out of the gate that to reform ourselves, to undergo this islah, we first have to be brave enough to look into that mirror and confront the raw, unvarnished truth of our own spiritual condition. Right below that golden title, you'll see this central green banner. And this highlights our core concept for today, Nafsi Ammara. Now, understanding what this term actually means is absolutely crucial. In Islamic spiritual philosophy, the nafs is the self or the ego or the soul. But that second word, Ammara, that translates to commanding. So we're not just talking about some passive part of your personality. This is the commanding soul. It's the lowest state of the self, that primal, unchecked ego that forcefully and relentlessly incites a person toward negative behaviors, base desires, and ultimately spiritual self-destruction. Actually, scratch that. It doesn't just suggest bad ideas, it demands them. This right here is the main antagonist of our inner story. Shifting over to the left side of the canvas, check out the atmosphere the artist created here. It is a harsh, dusty wasteland. You've got this thick, swirling dust, dark smoke, and the ground underneath is just barren, cracked earth. And this layout, it's entirely intentional. This dusty, chaotic environment is a visual representation of the turbulent, confused state of an unrefined soul. When that Nafs e Ammara is running the show, your internal world feels exactly like this. Stormy, lacking clarity, just totally blinding you to reality. The dust clouds your judgment, and that cracked earth, it shows a complete lack of spiritual nourishment. It really is a powerful visual metaphor for a life lived purely on impulse. Now, if we look at the first half of the subtitle sitting right beneath that banner, it reads, "The soul that incites to evil." And this grounds that abstract kind of ethereal concept we were just talking about into super clear plain language. It explicitly labels the chaos happening on the left side of the screen, so there is absolutely no ambiguity. This isn't just some random natural storm. This is the active driving force inside of us that pushes us toward malice, greed, anger, and selfishness. You know the one. It's that highly recognizable voice in your head that tries to justify doing the wrong thing just because it feels good in the moment. Embedded right in the middle of that blinding dust is a really striking visual metaphor, a dark, rearing horse bound by heavy iron chains. In a lot of spiritual traditions, the wild horse is a classic go-to symbol for the ego or base desires. I mean, it possesses immense power, energy, and drive, but without a rider to actually tame it, it's wild, it's destructive, it's totally unpredictable. And the fact that it's rearing up shows us that it's actively fighting for control. But those iron chains are the key detail here. They remind us that, yeah, while this beast is incredibly strong, it isn't invincible. It can't be restrained. It can be bound. The real struggle is just making sure those chains stay secure. And then the second half of that subtitle brings this ancient struggle right to our front door, and its attacks in the present era. This is where this historical philosophy becomes highly urgent and incredibly modern. The creator of this image is talking directly to you right now in the present day. Because let's face it, in our modern era, the attacks of the Nafs Ammara are everywhere. They're massively amplified by the world we live in. We're talking the constant dopamine hits from social media, relentless consumerism, all those hyper-competitive environments we navigate every single day. The beast has way more tools at its disposal today to incite us than ever before, which makes the need to recognize and chain it up all the more critical. When we zoom out a bit, this brilliant duality emerges. The artist sharply juxtaposes that chaotic left side with this environment of just profound peace on the right. That harsh, cracked earth from the left seamlessly transitions into this lush, vibrant greenery. The dark smoke gives way to bright, clear, golden sunlight. It is such a striking visual dichotomy. You've got spiritual ruin on one side and spiritual salvation on the other. This right side represents the ultimate tranquility that comes when the soul is no longer being bossed around by its base desires, but is instead guided by a much higher purpose. Over on that serene right side, totally bathed in this calm, golden hour light, we find the anchors of this peaceful environment. Down in the foreground, resting on a traditional wooden stand, there's an open Quran. And then, in the distance, illuminated so beautifully, is a quiet mosque with a glowing green dome. These elements represent the ultimate destination of peace, divine guidance. So, while the left side is all about raw, undirected impulse, the right side is all about structured, divine wisdom. And notice how the book is open? That implies the guidance is accessible. It's ready to be read and implemented. It isn't locked away somewhere. It's sitting right there in the light, offering a clear, tangible alternative to the chaos of that chained beast. Now, caught perfectly between these two extremes, right in the absolute center of the image, we find the human element. We see a man dressed in clean, white, traditional clothing. And he's not just standing still, he is walking forward on this structured, brightly illuminated stone path. He is quite literally caught right between these two worlds. You've got the wild horse behind him and to his left, while the bright light of guidance is ahead of him and to his right. This central figure, that represents every single one of us. We're all walking this exact middle path, constantly feeling the pull of the dark chaos behind us, while simultaneously trying to navigate toward the light and the peace that's up ahead. The artist has actually layered some really vital cues into this central figure that show us exactly how this self-reformation works. First off, notice the paved, illuminated path he's walking on. This tells us that the journey of Islah, or reformation, is an active, continuous process. It absolutely requires forward motion. Second, focus in on his right hand. He's holding prayer beads, or a tasbih, and this symbolizes constant spiritual vigilance and mindfulness. Because, let's be real, you cannot defeat the commanding soul if you're asleep at the wheel. You have to be actively conscious of your actions. And finally, look at his posture. His back is firmly turned away from that rearing horse and the dust. He has made a definitive, conscious choice to face the light. Taken as a whole, this artwork is just truly masterful. It really isn't just a title page. It's a dynamic, fully comprehensive map of the human spiritual experience. It shows us the enemy, that wild, unchecked ego. It shows us the destination, peace and divine guidance. And most importantly, it shows us the method, that active, mindful walk down the central path, consciously leaving the darkness behind. By visualizing these really abstract spiritual concepts as physical landscapes and figures, this source material takes something that's incredibly difficult to grasp and makes it instantly understandable. We can literally see the journey we're meant to take. And that actually brings us to the end of today's explainer. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a lingering thought. Looking at this map of the soul, with the chaotic ego on one side and mindful peace on the other, where are you standing on the path of self-reformation today? Are you feeling the tug of the chained beast, or are you actively walking toward the light? It is a mirror of truth, and, well, only you can answer what reflects back. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Take this image and this question with you as you navigate your own inner path.